Hello, I'm Mark Lucraft. I'm the Recorder of London, the senior of the permanent judges here at the Old Bailey. A sentencing hearing is normally for us at the end of a trial when a defendant or defendants have been convicted by a jury, and it is then the opportunity or the chance for the judge to set out the factual basis upon which somebody is to be sentenced, any relevant sentencing guidelines that may apply, and then ultimately to pass the sentence the judge feels is appropriate for the case, the offences with which the defendant's been convicted. Occasionally we have cases where a defendant has pleaded guilty and there is then a sentencing hearing, but in the majority of our cases here, sentence follows a trial and a finding of guilt by a jury. So the most of the work we do in this building is homicide, so murder, manslaughter, and we also do quite a bit of terrorism. And for manslaughter and for terrorism, there are guidelines which are published by the Sentencing Council, and they set out two principal features. One is the harm which has been caused, and then the second is culpability, and those are two factors the judge has to consider. Then set out in the guidelines are aggravating and mitigating features of the case for the judge to take into account. And at a sentencing hearing, the prosecution will set out the facts. The judge will hear submissions from the prosecution and from the defence about the relevant guidelines. The judge will hear mitigation on behalf of a defendant or defendants, setting out where the counsel say the case comes on behalf of a defendant within the guidelines. There may be character evidence called, setting out the background to a defendant. Very often there are pre-sentence reports that have been prepared, which again will help with the background and the nature of the type of sentence the court is passing. For murder cases, there are no guidelines in the sense that there are no published guidelines by the Sentencing Council, but Schedule 21 of the Sentencing Act 2020 sets out the rubric within which a judge has to pass sentence, because for murder it has to be a life sentence, however that is expressed by the differing ages of the defendants that are before the court. The broadcasting live of sentencing started about a year ago, I think on the 28th of July last year, and it's an important part of open justice that we do what we can to make it more available to the public to find out why a judge has passed a certain sentence, which features of the case have triggered the sentence that the judge has passed. And so far I think there have been somewhere in the region about 30 to 35 cases which have been the subject of broadcast, and roughly a half of those have taken place in this building by myself, Judge Munro, and also the Common Sergeant, plus a number of High Court judges who've been sitting here who've passed sentence. I think our collective thoughts are that this is a very important way of making it hopefully more understandable to the public why a particular sentence is being passed and what the features are of a particular case that have led the judge to pass the sentence that they have. I think the preparation for broadcast is pretty much the same as preparation for any other type of sentencing hearing. By and large, judges here will have written sentencing remarks which they will use when they're passing sentence. One of the things that we've tried to do is to make sure that what we're saying to camera is the right thing to be saying. So very often I will simply ask another judge not to comment about the sentence I'm passing, but just to look through what it is I'm going to say, just to see that there's nothing I'm saying which would be unfortunate in the context of the case. And that's something that we each try to do for the other. I think where broadcasting helps open justice is that very often the press reports, whether they're in the newspapers or on the television, very often would be a report about a particular case with the ultimate line, the sentence in this case was one of life imprisonment with a minimum term of how many years it is. I think with the broadcasting, what helps is that you've got all of the detail, where the judge has set out both the aggravating and mitigating features of a case, and certainly those which have been broadcast are live or following a slight delay on the timing, pretty much live, have gone into the detail has been out there for the public to see and to hear. And I think also the press by and large have reported rather more extensively the sentencing remarks that the judge has delivered to camera in a way which we hope helps the public better understand why the sentence has been passed in a particular case.